Are you assessing yourself before you write your programs? If you're not, then you're only guessing. This is a really important concept to understand, because if you get this wrong, you're really just basically randomly choosing exercises to put in your programs, and that is not going to get you where you want to go.
What's up, everyone? My name's Yanni Bormeister. To my left, I got the legend, none other than Phil White, switched on physio. Across the table, it's Rad, as usual. And behind the mixer, we got Richie. We are Unity Gym and the Unify Movement System. Remember, if you guys want to know how we turn driven people into athletes, download our blueprints. Everything we learn, all of the best secrets, we keep it to the 10 commandments. It's all in there in the description if you're watching the replay or on our website. Guys, what's up? We got a big discussion today. This is a passion project of mine, physical assessments.
I'm just sad we didn't call the episode "Assess Yourself Before You Wreck Yourself."
Oh my God!
I thought that was about to come out when you were doing your intro there.
Well,
a real missed opportunity. Sorry.
I'm just telling Phil I'm afraid I'm going to knock his coffee onto his laptop.
I'm also afraid.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, it's an important one, and it's one of those things that I remember being a juvenile personal trainer when I'd been in the industry for about 2 years or so, and Donald Carr was teaching his workshop, and I think that's where we got that tagline, "If you're not assessing, you're guessing," because he was saying that. And I felt like crap, because I had no idea how to assess people, and it just made me realize how much I was guessing, and I was charging people, top dollar for personal training. And that's what you do when you're a young personal trainer. You kind of fake it till you make it.
But I'm going to go the other way first before we dive into this conversation, because I 100% agree with you, and I went real deep on this, and I think this is the biggest problem that our industry faces with a lot of trainers who over-assess. And we had another really insightful, memorable comment from one of our other mentors, Tony Battaji, who, I went, like, after spending some time with Paul Check and Donald Carr and those guys, I created this insane assessment system that literally took 3 to 6 hours to fully assess someone. And that was based on the criterion that I'd learned from Paul Check about assessing lifestyle and bowel movements and all sorts of stuff, And then I took that, and I was so proud of it. I was so proud of this system that I'd created, and it was like a little logbook that the trainers would use, and they'd take their clients through this process in the first week. They'd see them sort of 6 times or 5 times or something. Can't remember exactly. And then I took that to Tony Battaji, and he just laughed at me, and he looked at it and said, "What do you do with all this shit? Like, what's the point of assessing something if you're not actually going to use it to change something in their life? If you can't actually, specifically, tangibly alter that piece of data that you're assessing, then why are you gathering it? What's the point?"
Yeah, that was a big point in physio. Obviously, so much of physio is diagnosis and assessment, and that was one of the big things they really pushed us. Like, don't just fall into the trap of just testing everything because you can. Like, you really need to have a reason why you're looking for something, and then that's got to be related to something that you can change positively.
Yeah,
so
like, you have to be able to change it, and that's what I love about our assessment criterion now, the way we teach it in the UMS.
Is that a word? Criterion? I think it's criteria.
Criteria, whatever.
Well,
I'm going to look it up after this show.
Plural of criteria. Criterium.
Yeah, there you go.
Right?
I'm going to look it up.
you keep going.
Yeah, the way we teach it now is direct. It's completely linked to how you're going to work out for the following period, and it's all. I'm mostly specifically talking about the physical assessment process that we take people through, and we're going to reveal that today. We're going to go into detail about the areas that we assess, how we do it, and how we make it so efficient that it doesn't affect your program and your training,
Well, I want to talk quickly about the problem that we've identified for today's show. And in all honesty, this entire week's theme which the theme of this week is, that the 3 critical foundation principles: motivation, movement, and nutrition, to assess your strength and flexibility regularly to build your ideal program. When training, be flexible and process focused rather than goal focused, and how to build your program and then add skill masterclasses or rehabilitation. So that's the theme of this week. And it all really comes from the problem that we're going to be driving home today, which is people try to do too much. Beyond anything, the single most important thing is to get a program that overcomes your weak links. That's the most important thing to do. And that looks different for everybody, because everybody has different weak links. Like, we've got a member who's one of our most enthusiastic members, who's been with us for almost a year now, Mark, who not only does Monday to Friday, but he comes and trains with me on Saturdays. And he is a strong dude, man. Like, he busts out sets of 8 pronated wide grip pull-ups where he probably gets about 4 chest to bar and then 4 mid-neck to bar. Like, that's some serious strength. And he's got good lower body strength as well, but his flexibility is woeful, like at a very, very low level. And he asked me the other day, he said, can I do more flexibility? Is that something that I can do? And I said, you can, but it comes at the cost of strength development. Like, the way that you can do your program is you can do less strength and just focus on maintaining what you've already got. You won't build more, but double down on flexibility. And that's something that is individual to him. And somebody else in the class said, can I do that? And I looked at him and said, no, you can't, because you don't have an imbalance of strength and flexibility. You're weak and you're lack flexibility, so you need to build both up. But because I'm a trainer and I assess these guys in the class, it's my job to do that. But if you don't have a trainer like Yanni, Phil, me, or Richard, you need to be doing this yourself. You need to be assessing yourself and then figuring out what it is that you need.
Yeah, 100%. Well, the thing is that people tend to, and I know this like by personal experience, and I've also hung around gyms now for almost 3 decades. People, especially men, tend to do what they do best most. So if you've got strong biceps, you see the guys with strong big guns, they're in the gym doing bicep curls 3 days a week, because you gravitate to what you're most comfortable with and what you do best. And that in and of itself exacerbates any structural imbalances that you might have. For me, when I was first starting out at the gym, I teamed up with a good buddy of mine who knew only a bee's dick more than I did, and which is very, very small amount, and all we did was chest, bis, and lats. And little did I know that in conjunction with my boxing, I was boxing, anywhere from 15 to 30 hours a week, was extremely effective at internally rotating and protracting my shoulders, and that created a really bad structural imbalance between, the muscles that you can see in the mirror that sort of pull your shoulders forward and internally rotated, to the muscles that you can't see on your back that help to sort of align everything and keep your scapula sitting in the right place on your rib cage, and that's one of the big problems. People, if you're not assessing, then you tend to be doing the wrong things by nature, and that it's a real problem. Like, it's we get real tunnel vision in Unity Gym because we do this so well and effectively. But every once in a while, every so often, I get to go and present or go to a big different gym, and knocks me over how bad this still is. We sort of think, oh, well, if we're doing it, everyone's assessing and writing really great programs that focus on balance and technique and, skill development. But then you go into a big mainstream gym and you still see the buffheads in the mirror just pumping, jacking up the anterior portion of their bodies. And,
But before we even go into that, I really want to make sure that we don't skip over this, because this really was what inspired us to do this entire week, which is people are trying to do too much. And beyond anything, the single most important thing is to get a program that helps you to overcome your weak links. And what we're seeing more and more in the UMS Movement Mastermind is we're getting questions from people that are saying, how do I fit the 18-minute stretching routine, the loaded stretching routine, and the mobility masterclass into my week of training? I'm thinking of doing one in the morning and then one at lunchtime, and then on the off day doing this, and then on the other day doing that. And it's not the way you're meant to use these programs. What you're meant to do is to, once you've created your goals you assess yourself and figure out what is the program that's going to give you the biggest wins to bring you closer towards your goals. And then you double down on that, because you don't get enough volume on anything if you try and do a little bit of everything. And that's a really big thing. And then if we bring it back into what we want to talk about today is, before all of that, you even have to assess your weak links.
Yeah, and I just want to really talk about with that goal thing is so important, because you don't want to turn up to the gym really excited to develop one thing and then be told, oh no, you're not allowed to do that until you've done X. To stay that kind of engaged and excited about your training, I think you really do need to fit your training in with your goals. So I think it's just such a key part of your goal setting is then deciding what you need to assess and what you need to develop. So they have to be directly related, otherwise you're going to have a shit time.
Yeah, and I think that's the job of the trainer or the programmer, to get people to understand the connection between how the body functions and how that's going to contribute to them achieving their goal. Because to give you an example, if someone has I know that you like your running and your cycling and things like that, so I'm going to use a really crazy example here that would have no relation to me or what we do. But let's say someone wants to run a distance run, and they have a really unstable hip or something like that from an old injury or whatever, and it's affecting they're getting knee pain or something like that. My approach would be to educate them on how, if we build strength and stability in their hips, it's going to help them overcome, and their ankle, it's going to help them overcome that knee pain, so that they're not going to have to strap the crap out of their knee to get through that race. So let's address that first, and then let's get back onto the path of running, of training for running. And I think that's the important part here. Yes, your goal is to do that race, but you're gonna have situations where another example would be someone
just on that example. I'd also add in I like to ideally do things concurrently. So I still think that while you're developing that strength, there's still a really good opportunity there to start working on exposing your body to impact forces, exposing your body to good running technique, because everything technique takes time to develop. So ideally, you'd also be working with someone who is good with their running and running assessment as well, and then working to build those things concurrently.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not suggesting you completely stop running. Another example that I've had personally is to develop a really heavy, strong bench press, and I sort of prioritized doing bench press 4 days a week. I did different types of pressing movements. There was some dumbbell pressing, there was some flat incline, there was flat and incline barbell pressing. So it was never the same thing every day, but it was all pressing movements. And I didn't do as much of the opposing antagonist movement. And I also sort of neglected the movements that help to sort of combat the external, to strengthen the external rotators. So I ended up, all of that pressing altered my shoulder position, altered my posture. And then when I went out and tried to do a movement that I could do really easy prior to doing all that pressing, which was a human flag, a calisthenics movement, I tore a muscle in my rotator cuff, because my shoulders weren't functioning the way they used to. They were very strong in pressing, but they weren't stable in the position that I wanted to put them in for that flag anymore, So
it's system thinking. You've changed one part of the system, and then the rest of the system's going to be impacted.
That's exactly right.
That's what assessment's all about, is figuring out if the system is, balanced, and if not, then how do we get it there?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And in most of the time, well, this is not my opinion. In a lot of the research, if you keep your body in this anatomical structural balanced state, you perform better in pretty much everything. Mm-hmm. There is a need for this structural balance. For injury reduction or mitigation, and for performance, even the best bench pressers that I know, they work on the opposing muscle groups to keep some level of balance there. They don't just do bench press. That's not how you get really good at bench press. That's how you create vulnerability, And so there is a real need for this level of assessment and this concept of balance.
Yeah, I think there's an essential need for it. It's I mean, it's one of the it's one of the keys to the success that we've had with ourselves and with our members online and in the gym is the way that we do go through this process. People are getting the best results that they've had in decades from this process of assessment and identifying, the weak links in their body and then working to fix them. And it's nothing new. It's this stuff's been around for a while, and it's something that we've stolen and adapted into our program. We didn't create it ourselves, and that's a good thing. That's not I'm saying that as a strength, because we haven't tried to reinvent the wheel. We've taken what has been researched by people that have got, that's what their careers are. They analyze athletes and they figure out what kind of ratios people should have in a body that performs really, really well. And then we've taken that and incorporated it into the UMS. And there are ratios that, the shoulder press should be in relation to the bench press, that the bent over row should be in relation to the bench press, that the pull-up should be in relation, that the front squat should be in relation to the back squat, that your external rotation should be in relation to the bench press. All these things should be within a certain balance. And there's a lot to it. But it works, it delivers results. And when you start going deeper into that stuff, you start to understand, like, whoa, this is so weak compared to what it should be compared to the bench, and I've never even done it before, so why would it be stronger? Like, we get a lot of people doing that, people coming in here saying that they've got shoulder pain but they can do a 100 kilo bench, and then they do a trap 3 raise and they can only do 1 kilo, know? And in that example they should be able to do 12 kilos to be balanced, and so we get them to do trap 3 raise twice a week for 3 months, and all of a sudden their shoulder pain goes.
Yeah,
they're not in pain anymore.
So should we start talking about how to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Very quickly before we do, let's just give a shout out to Vinny Brown, who's got on the live podcast recording.
Can I answer this one?
And Craig Jenkins.
Vinny's excited to catch one live one. So.
That's right.
Vinny's saying, with a program like the Mobility Masterclass, which can take 90 minutes to get through, does it make sense to do shorter versions of strength workouts, thinking about doing straight arm scapular exercises like we did on Wednesdays in the at-home workouts? Vinny, I want to answer this for you on Friday, because Friday's topic is how to build your program and then add additional masterclasses to it. That's what the entire show on Friday is going to be about. So I'm going to go deep into how you add the Mobility Masterclass into your workouts.
Yeah, and I want to drop a little knowledge bomb and a little teaser. All of the masterclasses, all skills training, whether it be specific to flexibility or mobility, or specific to developing a movement skill, a calisthenics, gymnastics, or powerlifting, any specialization is added to an existing balanced program.
Yep.
It's not something that you do first.
Yep.
Your first goal is always to build a base foundation of strength and flexibility. And that, it doesn't matter who I've been to, no matter what world-renowned coach, they will do the same thing. Your first goal is to get strong and flexible, strong and mobile.
And we've worked with some world-class hand balancing coaches, people that specialize in hand balancing, and they've said to us that biggest regret is that they didn't do a structurally balanced training program, and they only did, and people that are now getting cortisone injections in their shoulders because of repetitive strain injuries that are coming from an imbalance in the body. And that's forgetting even the lower body. Like, these are people that have got legs like twigs because they do, and they don't even use their legs, but if they tried to use them in something like football or anything like that, they'd be in real trouble.
Absolutely.
It really does work. So what we're going to talk about how we do structual balance testing.
Yeah, well, let's just talk about the 3 big elements of our assessment protocol: strength and flexibility, agonist-antagonist structural balance, and symmetry testing, left to right side. And just explain how we do it so that people who aren't part of the UMS online coaching program can take something away and go, okay, I can put this together,
So, well, the first thing is that there's That we didn't make this up. I'll say that again. It's come from.
It's been borrowed and adapted.
It's been borrowed and adapted from people that basically where it came from is a friend of ours, Tony Battaji, who is a PhD holder and reads. He boasts that he reads about 20 peer-reviewed research papers a week, and he's been doing that for over a decade. So this guy has a lot of objective information. And that's what his whole marketing message is. His marketing message is objective, evidence-based information is what he gives you. So what he did was he came up with this structural balance testing based on looking at the data from lots and lots and lots of different research papers where they analysed what the balance, what optimal balance is in athletes in different sports. And then he came up with this strength testing protocol, and then it's been taught to hundreds, probably thousands of personal trainers.
His version was an adaptation of another one,
Yep.
and that was an adaptation of another
Yep.
one, and that was an adaptation of another one.
Yep.
And it's the only variables that, and I've looked at all of them because I've worked on. Charles Poliquin had a great adaptation that Tony Battaji sort of used a little bit too, and. The only things that seem to change much are when you're conditioning an athlete for a specific sport. And the examples that Charles gave us when we were doing his Poliquin certification was that the PICP courses were that if you're training a rower, then the pull-up will go up a little bit in comparison to the pressing movements. If you're training an elite bobsledder, then the front squat will go up in relation to the back squat because they're pushing a sled, and that's one of the key parts of a sled is that explosive push at the very start. The start is everything, and so there's a few variables that seem to change in these assessments. Only dependent on whether you're training an elite level athlete who has a very specific role, you know, and then it might change. But for us, we've adapted it to everyday athletes, people who want to function in any environment that they're put in. If they want to go play a game of footy on the weekend, then they want to be able to function in that. If they want to throw a cricket ball or a baseball, they want to be able to function in that. If they want to go for a swim, they want to be able to swim fast. If they want to go for a run, they want to be able to run. If they want to go to the gym and squat with their mates, they want to be able to squat well, you know. So if they want to do calisthenics, then they want to be strong and stable and flexible. So that's what we've adapted it to, you know.
So the way we do it, the first thing we do is that we work on 6RM, which means you're lifting a weight and that is your 6 repetition max, which means you couldn't do 7 reps if someone held a gun to your head, and there's a good reason why we do that. Much above 6RM, you're not really testing maximal strength. You're coming more into endurance training. And much less than 6RM starts to become a little bit dangerous for the average person. As soon as you go down to 5 and definitely below 5, the weight that you have to lift it can be quite dangerous for people. So 6 reps is the number that we like to use.
Particularly if you're training at home, you don't have people to spot you.
Yeah, exactly.
So for those doing online training, if you
exactly,
Yeah.
we used to do 3 rep max, but doing a 3 rep max bench press without a spotter is very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. If you're somebody that's not really
just
experienced.
that. It's if you know how to dump a bar, it's okay. But it's you
a
got to be
a bench press.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, look, doing any assessment without a spotter on a bench press is going to be tricky. You know?
Of course, but
because you are meant to go until the almost point of failure or failure.
Yeah,
you know,
course.
so.
But when you're doing 6 rep max, you know the difference between 5 and 6 is far less than the difference between 2 and 3. Right.
Yep.
So. That's the first thing we do. The next thing we do is we test the flat bench press and the barbell back squat, and you test and retest and retest and retest until you figure out what your 6 rep max is. Sometimes it takes people 4 or 5 sets to do because until you do it a few times, a lot of people have no idea what they're doing. They don't know if they're going to be doing 40 kilos or 80 kilos for their bench, or maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but they don't know if they're going to be doing 70 or 85 kilos for their bench. So they'll do it and they think, oh, wow, I could have done 8 or 9 then. So you've got to stop, wait 4 minutes, retest again. Once you find your true 6RM, so we know, okay, I can do 82 kilos for my bench press and 98 kilos for my back squat or whatever it is. Then all of the other 13 lifts that we do, and we do the front squat, the split squat, the step up, the deadlift, the trap 3 raise, external rotation, overhead shoulder press, behind the head shoulder press, so both seated, flat dumbbell bench press, dumbbell bent, single arm bent over row, and barbell bent over row. All of those lifts they have a calculation of what they should be in relation to the bench press if it's an upper body lift, and in relation to the back squat if it's a lower body lift.
Just really love that, but just talking on when you're doing the testing about what counts as a good rep and what counts as a failed rep, I think it's just an important thing to
100%, and that's in relation to what Craig Jenkins has said here. He says, good advice. I found the lower reps very difficult to hold good form on. Here's the thing. If you're experienced enough and you're skilled enough, it doesn't matter what the rep range, you know that a break in form is a failed rep.
Yeah, that's right.
And so there shouldn't be any unclean reps in a test.
Yeah, you know? a lot of people misunderstand the way that you do it, because the idea is it's not that it's hard, Craig, it's that you choose the right weight. So if it's hard for you to maintain the good technique and the good tempo, you've gone too heavy. And when you do your bench press and your back squat, that shouldn't happen, because you're working out what is my true 6RM. So if you can't do 6 reps with good technique and good tempo, the weight's too heavy, and you've got to reduce the weight and do it with good technique and good tempo.
The one thing I really want to point out, a physical assessment week is not a powerlifting comp.
Yeah.
Powerlifting comp or a Olympic lifting comp is get the bar up at all costs, meeting the criterion of the competition. And that is not what your physical assessment is all about. You know, your physical assessment is about testing your body for weaknesses. It's about exposing imbalances and weaknesses so you know what to work on next.
That is a excellent point, but I've just got excited because you said criterion again, and it's
I know.
So criteria is plural of criterion, and criterium, which you're saying, is a type of bike race.
Okay.
So,
okay, cool.
Yeah,
we got that straight.
I just love words.
So back to my point. It's very important that you guys understand this. This is not a competition where you are to lift as much weight as humanly possible as long as you get 3 white lights. Okay, it is about searching for your next project on your body. It is about trying to find the area in your body that you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck for the next program phase, which is, and this is the thing I love about the system that we use. It's you versus you. It's about creating your perfect version of yourself. Always, every program, unless you're training for a specific sport, and then we'll make it a little bit different for you because you might need you might need to hit certain criteria for your sport.
Yeah, the goal is to uncover your weak links. The goal is not to just lift as much weight as you can, and the goal is definitely not to just see that your lifts go up every time you retest this. That is not what you're trying to find here. So the first thing to understand is it's critical that you get your true 6RM with the way we do it is a 3-0-1-0 tempo, meaning 3 second eccentric, 0 second pause, 1 second concentric, 0 second pause. So it's a very, very specific tempo. And if you can't maintain that 3 second eccentric for 6 reps, it's too much weight.
Put the metronome on for it to... put the metronome on to keep yourself
accountable.
Exactly.
And put the metronome on and film yourself. Yeah. And if you need to take a break between reps, that's a fail immediately. That's the end of your test. And if you didn't get your 6 reps, it's a failure.
I feel like you should change it to, instead of like 6RM, it should be like 6RMA. GF, like 6RM at good form, because like I think being like 6R like rep max really makes people think like, okay, I've got to just like powerlifting comp. I love that analogy there. Like, but yeah, it's a totally different mindset for this testing.
Yeah, it is. And then and the next thing to understand is, and this is where people really stuff this up. This is you must understand this. You get your true 6RM for the bench press, the flat bench, and the barbell back squat. And then everything else is a percentage of that. And I'll give you an example. I'll just give you one example. The front squat is 85% of what the back squat is. So what that means is if you got 100 kilos for 6 reps on the back squat, then your front squat is 85 kilos. There's no let's figure out how much weight I can do 6 reps on the front squat for. Your test for the front squat is 85 kilos, and we see how many reps you can do for that weight with the perfect tempo. Now, technique, which means that in Vinny's example saying, I find it really hard to maintain good technique if you go and grab that weight for the front squat and you can barely do 1 rep, that's your test. You don't go, okay, let's bring it back down to 70 and I'll try and get a few reps out.
No. Just to clarify here, what Rad's saying, there's still a warm-up protocol.
Of course.
You don't just dive under 85 kilos and hope that you can get your 6 reps out. But, and that's a totally different discussion that we won't go into today, the warm-up protocol. If you want to hear that, you can comment and we'll share it with you. But, yeah, what Rad's trying to say is it's a very efficient way of assessing. It's a go, no-go. It's a pass or fail. You know, you can either do the reps on the opposing movement,
yeah, and it's really important that we say this because I think that this actually, when we did that video, Yanni, for the testing week, we actually didn't explain this properly for the external rotation and the trap 3 raise, and there's been some confusion. Some people I think in the video, the way we explain it, it makes people think that you do try and find the weight that you can do your 6 RM for those 2 lifts, but it's not. The idea is that the only 2 lifts that you do, that you figure out your true 6 RM is the back squat and the bench press, and everything else is a calculation off those, a percentage, and then you figure out how many reps you can do. And the way that we figure out unilateral imbalance is that you do as many reps as you do as many reps as you can on each side. With the correct technique, which means that when you do your external rotation, if you can only do 2 reps on the left, but you can do 8 reps on the right, you do that, and then you record those results, and then you know I've got an imbalance issue.
Symmetry imbalance.
Sometimes we see people when they're doing their flat bench that they'll go for the flat dumbbell chest press. They'll get like 3 reps on the left side, and then they'll stop on the left side and they'll keep going to get 8 reps on the right. And that's what we want. We want that data. Yeah. You don't stop when you get to 3 reps. You stop with the left side and you push with the right side until you get as many reps as you can. And that shows us that you have a unilateral imbalance, a symmetry imbalance. So you need to prioritize dumbbell chest pressing and dumbbell rowing and dumbbell shoulder pressing for a few cycles to work that out.
Yeah, and we have the same protocols for your flexibility tests. We test left to right side, and we have a formula for the joint mobility that we want to see. And that formula is really based around being able to do functional movement patterns without restriction. Squatting, we use an overhead squat test to test mobility in the upper and lower body. We use a couple of conformation tests for that, a hamstring test, a hip flexor test. We use a modified Apley scratch test for the shoulders. Apley, yeah. And we're testing both range of movement and mobility there, but we're also testing symmetry from left to right side as well. And that's how we do it. That's the formula. And we do that in the UMS every 6-week mesocycle. We have a testing week so that we're constantly assessing our progress and assessing where we should take the next program phase. And that's how we make our program individualized, personalized for everyone that comes through. Now, we don't start people off like that because people need to understand that the initial win, the first win that people are going to get is just learning the movements and learning how to do it in perfect form and technique, and learning the criteria that we use, which is the tempo has to be exact. It can't be a little bit, it has to be exact, you know. We have to learn that the movements have to be done a certain way. If there's break in that form, then that's a fail, you know. Yep. And so what we usually do at Unity Gym is get our new guys in the UMS to do it 3 times, not actually going for their max.
The third time we allow them to actually do the test. Yeah. And look, this is a big topic. There's a lot involved, and we are out of time with this. But the concept, if you want to learn more of this, jump into the UMS online coaching, and you'll get the full tutorials for how to do this. And but the most important thing to understand, the take-home message from today is, don't try and do too much. But understand that whatever skill, whatever masterclass you want to be working on, it should be a bolt-on to a program that is working on overcoming structural imbalances.
Yeah, I think Craig just brought a good point up about ego, getting in the way of making decisions around this. And I think it's just so key with this. It can be very tempting to get very competitive with yourself. And I think you've just really got to take the ego out of this. It's even if if you did some dodgy reps, you could get to a much higher rep. Like, just be totally objective with yourself. It's about you versus you. Like, just
I think that's the biggest thing is, there's a very big difference, and I say this with absolute respect to all of the professional and lifters and people that compete out there. Training is very different to competition. Assessment is even more different. It is a totally different mindset, and it's not about, use competition as your benchmark of how much you can maximally lift or load your body. Assessment is about building the program, and the program is about training your body. And I've seen some of the best athletes in the world in powerlifting train. They've trained in our gym here, and they measure their success they get really, really detailed on bar speed, and the bar path and the alignment and things like that. Trust me, they're not doing messy reps, because when you lift those loads, a messy rep is enough to destroy something or injure something, Some of the strongest guys I've ever seen are using, what are the machines called that you hook on to test bar speed?
Yeah, there's force plates, and then there's camera
there's a thing with a cable, a string. If anyone knows it, comment. I'm having a brain fart here. I've seen these guys, and they're testing bar speed on every rep, and they're still deadlifting 300 kilos. But, they look at whether there's a breakdown in bar speed over the set or over their workout and things like that. And that's how they moderate whether it's a successful workout or not. Not if they puke and bleed out of the eyeballs and fail and almost die, that's just not what it's like. And I think it's a misunderstanding of training principles and concepts to be pushing yourself that much every day when you work out,
Clearly something we like talking about.
Yeah, that's right. Let's wrap it up. We got a big one tomorrow.
So tomorrow we're going to be talking about the concept of being process-focused rather than goal-focused, and this is another big one. So
we're going to talk about how it all comes together.
Yep.
Yeah. If you ever wanted to really know how you put a good program together, tune in tomorrow. All right, guys. Have a good day.
Have a good one.
Health is about performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, it's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that
It's
far.
the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.